In my dream, I was ranting about how Sarah Johnson was the only woman for me. I woke up, and a woman who looked exactly like Sarah stood before me, her eyes filled with disdain. She was ordering me to go to the courthouse and finalize the divorce. Before I could even speak, she turned and walked out. Stunned, I stumbled out of bed and went into the living room. The woman was sitting on the sofa, her face cold. I scratched my head. "Hey, can you tell me who you are? And where am I?" She looked at me with disgust. "You think pulling this kind of stunt will change anything now?" I frowned. "What stunt? Who are you, anyway?" The woman in front of me was beautiful, a dead ringer for Sarah Johnson, the girl I had a crush on, but her hostile attitude made me defensive. She turned away. "I only took a 2-hour lunch break. Move it, or you'll be late to work. And don't forget your ID, social security card, and marriage license." She clearly didn't want to look at me. She stood up and walked out, the door slamming behind her. My heart suddenly pounded in my chest. Am I hallucinating? I thought. I went back into the bedroom. Beer bottles and cigarette butts littered the floor. The stale smell of alcohol hung in the air. I scratched my head, my brain was throbbing. What the hell is going on? Just then, there was an impatient knock at the door. Probably that crazy lady, rushing me. I rolled my eyes and saw the marriage license in the drawer. I opened it, and my jaw dropped. The picture on the license was a clear photo of me and Sarah Johnson. I smacked myself on the forehead. This has got to be a dream. I can't believe I married Sarah Johnson, but this dream feels too real. Why can't I wake up? Is this some ice guy thing? I had married Sarah Johnson. A thrill went through me, but seeing Sarah's determination to divorce me, I couldn't help but twitch. I had always seen Sarah as my goddess. Ever since I bumped into her on campus, my heart was like a white-winged Cupid shot. My biggest dream was to win Sarah over and marry her. So why was I getting divorced in my dream? There was something wrong with my brain. Even if I was dreaming, I haven't even done it with Sarah yet. I shook my head to clear the dirty thoughts away. I had a growing feeling that I had traveled to another world. I picked up my phone, and the date on the screen made my eyes widen, October 30th, 2024. 10 years already? I rushed to the mirror. What I saw staring back was a scruffy face, a stubbly beard, and a beer belly. Is that me? Where did my six-pack go? I could hardly believe this slovenly guy was me. I wasn't the most diligent student, but I was still in decent shape, and I was a star on the basketball team. I didn't know how I ended up marrying Sarah Johnson or why we were so angry with each other that we were getting a divorce. I was completely lost. My parents, while not super rich, owned a small construction business worth a few million. Why were Sarah and I living in this old, dilapidated house? My mind snapped back, and I quickly used my phone to call my mom. Sorry, this number is no longer in service. Please check the number and dial again. I felt a wave of dread wash over me. I called my dad, but the same message played. The growing sense of dread consumed me. Just then, another knock at the door. Are you ready yet? I don't have time to waste. I'm in the bathroom. Give me a minute. I yelled out the door. Fortunately, my phone had WeChat. I opened the app, and the first message that popped up was almost empty, containing sparse messages. At the top, there was a thread with Sarah Johnson. I hope you don't forget that we're scheduled to sign the papers tomorrow morning. This was the most recent message, sent at 11 p.m. last night. I didn't respond. The previous message was from more than a week ago. I'm working an extra shift today. Can you pick up Lily after school? The response was busy, figure it out yourself. There were no other messages. She must have deleted the history. My head was spinning. It seemed like Sarah and I had a major falling out long ago, and it wasn't just on her end. Sarah. Lily. Who's Lily? Not my daughter, is she? Below the chat with Sarah was a nickname I didn't recognize, Angel Baby. The profile picture was very seductive, maybe in her early 20s. I didn't know if it was a selfie. "Honey, are you coming over tonight?" The response was "busy tonight, some other time." There were only 2 messages like that, also sent last night. My hands trembled, and I swallowed hard. Was I having an affair? Was that what led to the breakdown with Sarah? What a piece of SHT star. Other messages were with some friends, like one thread with Brian, who was my closest friend in high school and college. But when I opened the conversation with Brian, there was only one message, sent 3 months ago. Okay, never mind. It was sent by Brian, and I didn't reply. The rest were messages with the people I was closest to in high school and college. I looked at them and frowned. The chats were all similar, containing messages sent by me. "Can I borrow another $500? I'll pay you back in a few days." But no one had replied. Some of them even unfriended me. What the hell is this? Have I borrowed so much money that everyone's avoiding me? I couldn't think of any other reason. What did I need money for? Why did I borrow so much? I didn't see any messages with my parents or relatives. I opened my contacts, and there were only a dozen people on there. I used to have over 200. Did I delete everyone, or did they delete me? Luckily, my parents' numbers were still in my contacts. I texted my mom, "Why is my phone number out of service?" and sent the same message to my dad. Outside, there was another knock at the door. "Are you done yet? Do you want me to get docked for being late?" "I'm coming." I had no choice but to respond. I quickly threw on the clothes that were lying at the end of the bed. A strong odor of sweat and cigarettes hit me. I almost threw up and quickly took them off. I opened the closet. It was almost empty, but there were 2 clean short-sleeved shirts. I changed and picked up my phone. My parents still hadn't responded. How strange. I started a video call, and as I left the bedroom, I saw a small living room. Across from me was a door. I could see the bathroom. I went inside and saw children's toothbrushes and toothpaste. I was pretty sure I had a daughter. Where was my daughter? I didn't know which toothbrush was mine and didn't feel like cleaning up. I turned on the faucet and gargled. I splashed some water on my face, hoping it would wash away the dark circles under my eyes, but it didn't work. The video call automatically ended because no one answered. I called my dad again, but it was still the same. I'm sure Sarah was getting impatient. "Are you done yet?" I was forced to respond. I had a stroke of luck and texted Brian, "Hey, you there?" What I wanted to know most right now was the situation between me and Sarah. What about my parents? Brian should know about my situation. He was from the same town. I was thinking and replied, "I have amnesia. Do you know what happened to me in the past few years? The money is not necessary, and I will not contact you in the future." Brian responded to the message, "You are estranged." The people were estranged from him, and his reputation had collapsed. I was happy that Brian didn't believe me. So I texted, "I really do have amnesia. I'm sorry to have been at you in the past, please forgive me. I'm broke and willing to pay you back." It took a few minutes for Brian to reply. "Do you really have amnesia?" Honestly, I only remember the time before graduation. Even my senior year is a blur. My parents' phone numbers are out of service, and no one answers my video calls. Do you know what's going on? Did something happen? A few minutes later, Brian finally replied, "Are you serious? Your parents went to jail." Jail? What happened? My heart sank. I don't know the specifics. It was something about bribery in a project. I think someone pulled them into it. Where are they being held? How long are they in for? What about the rest of my family? I don't know. What about me and Sarah? How did I marry her? Why is she divorcing me? By this time, we had arrived at the courthouse. I stumbled out, but Sarah was already out of the car. I could only follow her. Sarah walked straight into the courthouse. I followed behind her, looking at my phone. I opened WeChat. "What's up?" Brian finally texted back. "Okay, never mind," was the quick reply. I smiled bitterly. Brian didn't believe me either. I texted, "I am amnesiac. You're my best friend. If I've done anything to let you down, I'm sorry. How much money do I owe you? Just tell me the amount, and I will pay you back. But right now, I really need to know what happened." We are now at the Civic Center. It seemed as if he was busy. "I can't get back to you at the moment. I will send you the message that you wanted the phone from your graduation project." I turned the volume down and pressed the phone to my ear, listening to Brian's message, my heart sinking. What a complete piece of garbage I turned out to be. I could hardly imagine becoming someone like that. But it was somewhat foreshadowed. I had never experienced hardship. My parents' business failed, and they went to jail. Perhaps because I couldn't handle the shock, my personality completely changed. I looked up at the sky. The sun was blinding, making my eyes water. Perhaps heaven was giving me a chance to correct my mistakes. "Thanks," I messaged Brian and quickly caught up with Sarah. Sarah stopped and turned around, her brow still furrowed. I looked her straight in the eyes and lowered my head slightly. "I know I messed up. I failed you these past years. Can you give me another chance? I promise I'll change so you and Lily can have a happy life." In my haste, I forgot that I had just said I had amnesia. Sarah's lips curled into a cold smile. "Didn't you say you lost your memory? How did you regain it so quickly?" I asked Brian, I quickly said, pulling out my phone to show Sarah. Sarah remained aloof. "You have the nerve to contact Brian and have him act this out with you? Forget it. I'll never believe you. If you really want to change, then go through with the divorce with me. Can't we wait a while? Just watch me." Sarah shook her head. "I don't have the patience to wait anymore." She turned away, the somber and painful look on her face even more blinding than the sun, piercing straight into my soul. I really want to say that I am not this person, but the person I was back in college, but my reputation in Sarah's heart has collapsed, and it's useless to say anything. I silently followed Sarah into the administrative building and then up to the 3rd floor to get a number and line up. Time flew, and soon it was our turn. If I signed this paper, Sarah and I might become strangers. Even if I succeeded later, Sarah might not change her mind. She might even be married to someone else, along with Lily, whom I had never met. My heart ached with a bitterness I couldn't suppress. "Sarah, I really have amnesia. Can't you give me one more chance?" "I'll make it up to you and Lily," I choked out. Tears finally fell, a grown man crying unexpectedly, making the people around us stare in surprise. Sarah didn't expect me to cry in front of so many people. She knew I was a person who valued my pride, otherwise, I wouldn't have locked myself in my room after my family's trouble. Finally, she was a bit moved. "Don't be like this. Let's just break up peacefully, okay?" She was starting to believe that I really had amnesia or, at least, that I was genuinely remorseful. After all, no matter how I had coaxed or deceived her before, I had never cried in front of her. But what could this change? A family needed food and money. Even if she didn't divorce me, life couldn't go on. She had endured too much and was too exhausted. I could hear some whispering in the crowd, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. Sarah hesitated for a moment. "Let's keep some dignity, okay? I'm really tired." She still wouldn't change her mind. I wiped away my tears in silence. I didn't know what I should do. Should I kneel down in front of Sarah? But I feared it would be useless. Sarah had already made up her mind, and I had hurt her too deeply. In truth, I couldn't see my future, and I wasn't sure what I could give Sarah and Lily. I bowed my head in silence for a few seconds, then looked up. "After the divorce, can you give me some time? Please don't rush into getting married, okay?" Sarah's eyes were complex. She wanted to tell me that none of that mattered anymore. Once she left this place, she could never get back together with me. But in the end, she couldn't bear to say it. Just as she was hesitating whether to nod or not, her phone suddenly rang. She answered the call, her expression quickly turning ugly. "Sorry, I'll be right back." The person on the other end continued to scold her. "Okay, I'm coming right now," she said and hung up, her eyes reddening again. She looked at me and said, "I have something to take care of. I'll find you later this afternoon." She hurried toward the elevator. I stared at Sarah's figure, blinking. Did this mean the divorce was temporarily off? Snapping out of it, I quickly chased after her. "What's wrong?" Sarah coldly said, "It's none of your business." I didn't dare to say anything more and silently walked outside the courthouse. Sarah hailed a taxi and left. I could only watch her go, letting out a heavy sigh. Even though the divorce was postponed until this afternoon, it didn't seem to mean much. I took out my phone and texted Brian, "Hey, are you free now? I'm outside the courthouse. Can you come and talk? I'm really confused right now, so confused I don't know what to do." Brian's reply was short and to the point, "Okay." I put away my phone and sat down on the flower bed by the side of the road, staring blankly ahead. About 10 minutes passed when a cigarette was suddenly offered in front of me. I looked up in surprise. Brian wasn't very tall, but he was fatter and looked older. There wasn't a trace of the naivety from the old days on his face. "I thought you didn't smoke," I said with a forced smile. Brian paused for a moment, then put the cigarette in his mouth and sat down next to me. "I'm starting to believe that you really have amnesia. What happened? How did you suddenly lose your memory?" I shrugged and gave a wry smile. "I don't know. I woke up like this." "Brian, did I do a lot of crazy things these past few years?" Brian took a deep drag on his cigarette and didn't deny it. I suddenly noticed that Brian was wearing an Uber Eats uniform and had ridden an electric scooter. "What's up with you? Why are you delivering food?" I asked, puzzled. Although Brian's family wasn't as wealthy as mine used to be, his family had been in the Jiang grain business at the wholesale market for many years. I still remembered that Brian's family was doing pretty well. Brian had even dropped out of college in his freshman year to prepare to take over his family's business. I didn't understand why he was delivering food now. Brian pursed his lips, a hint of bitterness flashing in his eyes. "Nothing to do, so I'm delivering food. Don't tell me you're doing it for your family's sake." I suddenly remembered that several years had passed. Perhaps Brian's family had also gone through some changes and was no longer in the grain business. Brian obviously knew what I was going to ask and sighed. My house was also confiscated by the bank. My parents divorced. Now I rely on this to make a living. I didn't know what to say. All I could ask was, "So, are you doing okay?" Brian smiled. "Just getting by. Just paying off some debt, not enough to die." Hearing this, I said, "You also owe money? Then how much do I owe you?" "More than 80,000. Forget it, that was debt from before. Don't mention it anymore. You're in even worse shape than me now." I stopped talking and suddenly thought of something, laughing. "You have amnesia. Now you look at me and feel like you're looking at an old man, right?" I laughed and cried. "It's true, but I also looked in the mirror this morning. We're both weathered old men." Brian laughed heartily. "This debt, I will pay you back. Give me the exact amount." More than 80,000 isn't a small amount. I can't welch on this debt, even if we're brothers. Brian nodded. "Okay, if you really want to pay it back, give it to me when you're free. Things aren't easy for you right now." I scratched my head. "But I really don't know how to make money right now. Do you have any suggestions?" Brian shook his head with a bitter smile. "I'm also delivering food. What advice can I give you? It's really hard to make money now. Neither of us has any skills. Either work in a factory or deliver food." Hearing this, I said, "I should have a college degree, right? You studied civil engineering. Although it's not a top school, it's still a key university. I'm confident it's not hard to find a job. Probably, Brian said, tilting his head to look at me. But after graduating, you only worked at your family's construction site for 2 years and then never went out. Now, if you want to work at a construction site, I'm afraid it's hard to get a high salary. As he spoke, he looked inside the courthouse. How are things going with you and Sarah? Did you really break up yet? She had something urgent to take care of and said she'll be back this afternoon. Brian sighed. Sarah's really good. You really messed up these past few years. If you had amnesia earlier, maybe things wouldn't have turned out this way. Now, it's probably hard to salvage things. As your brother, I can't help you much. He said again, you have amnesia. How does it feel now that you're divorcing Sarah? How does it feel? It feels like a broken heart. It hurts. I really don't understand how I became like this these past few years. Brian finished his cigarette and lit another one. It's a pity, but in my opinion, the root cause is still money. If you can make money, who knows, maybe Sarah will change her mind. I was surprised to see Brian was such a heavy smoker, smoking cheap white sands. You're really going backward as you live. I nodded. That's right. I think so too. But I owe too much money. I don't know where to make money now. Besides you, I probably owe other people too, right? Brian nodded. You borrowed everywhere. I also have Blackie, Brother Hai, and others. You borrowed from everyone. I could only sigh. Blackie's real name is Lu Bang, my classmate from middle school. We've always had a good relationship. Later, he also became close with you and the others. Brother Hai, Lu Hai, is also from my class in high school. Don't tell them about my situation. Maybe I also ruined my relationship with them. I'll contact them after I have money. Brian agreed. Then, there was silence. Do you have photos of Lily? I suddenly asked. Brian was stunned, probably thinking, I've got to have him. You used to come to my house for dinner. I took them. He took out his phone and flipped through it for a while, revealing a few photos. These photos were also a few years old. Sarah was still elegant and refined. Beside her sat a little girl, about 3 years old. She was really cute, rosy-cheeked. Both the mother and daughter were smiling brightly. Looking at the little girl, I felt a sense of closeness from the bottom of my heart. My heart melted. What's Lily's name? Brian almost couldn't help but laugh. You have amnesia to the point of forgetting your own daughter's name? Lily Goo. Goo, as in the goo of you. I laughed bitterly, looking at the photo before me, unable to take my eyes off it. Brian, beside me, had a complex look in his eyes. Can you not get divorced? Try not to get divorced. If not, hurry up and find something to do. Maybe Sarah will give you a chance. After all, you've been together for so many years. I repeatedly took the phone from Brian, sent these photos to me, and then said, didn't you call me here to ask for my opinion? See what I can do? To tell the truth, I had never thought my family would decline to this extent. I hadn't even visited my relatives. One uncle and one cousin are all close relatives. Even Brian, they had been heavily borrowed from. I didn't doubt that these elders had also been troubled a lot. I really didn't have the face to meet them now. I had to find a job first or have something respectable to show them hope. If I wanted to find a decent job, I had to go to the job market or search online. With your degree, it's not hard to find a job, as long as you don't ask for too much. But before that, you should do something to show Sarah. What can I do? I said. Brian thought for a moment. You can try selling balloons at the pedestrian street. I went to the pedestrian street the other day and saw a lot of kids holding this stuff. The business is good. I scratched my head. It's not because I'm afraid of losing face. How much capital do I need? I'm not sure about this either, but at the wholesale market, it seems like 1 yuan per balloon. You can sell it for 8 to 10 yuan at the pedestrian street, Brian said, glancing at me. In a few days, my kids, Mia and Laura, are going to school. I can't even pay off my credit card myself. I can only give you this much. If you don't have enough money to buy goods, look for me. 200 yuan had been sent to my phone. The phone made a sound. My eyes had a complicated look as I looked at Brian. Brian, my heart trembled. How lucky I was to have a brother like Brian. Don't say such sentimental words. It's only 200 yuan, Brian interrupted me and then laughed again. But these 200 yuan have to be repaid when you earn it. If you don't pay it back, I'm a deadbeat if I still hang out with you, haha. Definitely will pay back, I said with a smile. This was the first time since coming back in time that I felt truly happy. Mia and Laura are your kids? Are they both boys or girls? Brian nodded, his face full of pride. Twin girls. Nice, twins are blessed indeed. What grade are they in? Kindergarten. Younger than your Lily by a year. Lily, I was a little surprised. I didn't understand why Brian added the word little before Lily's name. Weren't you guys calling Sarah Big Lily before, and call your daughter Little Lily? I laughed. A warm current flowed through my heart. Before my personality changed drastically, I must have loved Sarah very, very much. Immediately after, I suddenly remembered, so Lily has to pay tuition, too. Of course. Your Lily is going to the upper class this year. But I'm sure Sarah has already prepared the tuition. You haven't earned a penny these past few years, and you've lost a lot of money gambling. All the expenses in the house are taken care of by her. I scratched my head hard, wanting to shoulder my responsibilities, but with just a few days until school started, I really didn't know how to get the money. I stood up and brushed off my ass. Okay, that's it for now. I'm going to the wholesale market to buy balloons. You go ahead and do your thing. If there's anything, give me a call. There was no need to be polite between me and Brian. Let me take you there. I don't have any customers now anyway, Brian said, raising his chin and walking to his electric scooter. He patted the back seat and then I sat down. Brian drove his wobbly electric scooter and finally stabilized before heading towards the wholesale market. Except, I didn't notice. While Brian was driving in front, his eyes were gradually wet. Wholesale Market Hongyun. This was the oldest wholesale market in Jiang County. It still sold everything. Brian's family used to sell Jiang goods here. There was a 6-story building behind the wholesale market, too. Brian grew up in this market. There were naturally quite a few acquaintances here. He led me around the market and quickly found a store that sold balloons wholesale. I didn't know how to bargain. Luckily, Brian said he was the son of so-and-so and added a few good words, which made the owner a bit confused. On the wholesale price, he even reduced it by a dime. The aluminum balloons for children to play with were, as Brian said, just 1.3 yuan each. After reducing it by a dime, it was 1.2 yuan. I added it up and bought 150 wholesale. In fact, this number wasn't really considered wholesale. If it weren't for the owner giving Brian face, I might not have been able to get it for 1.5 yuan each. In addition, I also bought a compressed air tank. Then Brian took me to buy a large black backpack. I didn't have enough money. Brian added more than 10 yuan. I suddenly thought, was Brian bringing me here because he wasn't confident in me, afraid I would take that 200 yuan to do something else? But I didn't feel sad at all. There was only a warm current flowing in my heart. Where to now? Take you back. We went back to the balloon shop. I put all the balloon inflation tanks into the backpack. Brian asked me, I'm going straight to the pedestrian street. Brian didn't say anything. It's so hot. What do you mean by pedestrian street? Even if you're anxious to make money, you shouldn't earn it like this. He added, but there are people around Emerald Lake. You can try going to the gate to see, as long as you're not afraid of the heat. Emerald Lake? Haven't you heard of it? The new commercial center opened 2 years ago. It's now the most prosperous commercial center in the town of Jiang. But you can't sell balloons inside. Anyway, I haven't seen anyone selling balloons in there. I nodded. Then let's go there. Brian drove his electric scooter and took me to the gate of Emerald Lake Commercial Center. The sun was even more intense. Next to the gate of the supermarket was a tea shop, and customers were lining up inside. After getting off the car, I glanced at the tea shop, frowned, and gritted my teeth, sitting heavily in the shade near the gate. Although there was shade, it was definitely not cool. The weather was terribly hot. I took out the balloons and the inflation tank and began to inflate them. I also encouraged myself to be mentally prepared. If I met an acquaintance, I would just meet them. If I didn't even have the courage to face failure, what was there to say about starting over? At this moment, nothing was more important than keeping Sarah and Lily. Well, you work here. I have to deliver food. Brian said to me with a smile. I nodded. In the end, I had to say a word. Thank you, Brian. What are you thanking me for? Brian cursed with a smile and then rode off on his small electric scooter, which wasn't at all impressive and didn't show much style. I continued to bow my head and work. What I didn't know was that Brian had just left Emerald Lake Commercial Center and hadn't even left before tears were streaming down his face. I blew up a balloon and tied it to the backpack. I used one foot to press down on the backpack. Soon, I had more than a dozen colorful balloons looming over my head. Even though it wasn't the school year yet, there weren't many parents taking their children out to play in this weather. I looked at the people passing by. I was very envious of the young couples with children. Looking at them, I laughed again. I really wanted to be like that, holding Lily's hand and playing with Sarah. How much is a balloon? I had to wait nearly half an hour before someone came out of the commercial center and asked me. I looked up. It was a woman in her 50s, leading a little girl about 5 to 6 years old. The woman wasn't dressed elaborately. She was probably the little girl's grandmother. 8 yuan, I said. I had never done business before, although I had prepared myself to be recognized and talked about, but when I actually had to sell something, I was still a bit nervous. That's so expensive? The woman frowned, looking down at the little girl holding her hand, seeming hesitant. I opened my mouth, intending to say 8 yuan would be okay too. I needed the money, really needed it. Earning whatever I could was better than not selling anything at all. 8 yuan, is 8 yuan okay? But the woman couldn't resist the little girl's expectant gaze and asked me, would 8 yuan work? I nodded repeatedly. Yes, it's sellable. The woman looked a bit unhappy, feeling like she had bargained too low. But since the price was already agreed upon, she was embarrassed to change her mind. She took out her wallet and pulled out a 10 yuan bill, handing it to me. I froze. I hadn't even thought about giving change. I didn't have a single penny in cash on me. Keep the change, the woman said, smiling at the little girl. Pick whichever one you like. I was flustered. I don't have any cash. Can you pay with WeChat? The woman frowned. I don't have WeChat. I looked over at the tea shop next door. Well, I'll go over there and get some change. Can you wait a moment? Saying this, I took the money from the woman's hand and smiled at the little girl. Pick out the one you like. It's best to tie it to your finger so it doesn't fly away. I hurriedly walked into the tea shop. I had only taken a few steps when I heard the woman's cry behind me. I turned around, and it turned out that my backpack couldn't hold the balloons. More than a dozen balloons and the backpack were floating up. The woman panicked, reaching out to try to grab them. I quickly turned back and jumped, managing to pull the backpack down. My eyes suddenly turned red. To be honest, I had never experienced such an embarrassing situation in my life, nor had I ever been so flustered. But it wasn't enough to make me cry. I awkwardly apologized, my face flushed. I'm sorry, can you help me hold it down? I set the backpack on the ground. The woman seemed a bit impatient, but when she saw my reddened eyes, her annoyance disappeared. She nodded and used her foot to hold down the backpack. I swallowed, my lips trembling slightly. Then, I turned and walked into the tea shop. "Grandma, I want this dolphin," the little girl pointed to the pink dolphin, looking up at the woman. Okay, wait for the owner to get it for you," the woman smiled, looking at my back one more time. Now, there were many young people selling things outside, but she had never seen someone like me. So young and already selling balloons. Moreover, she had clearly seen my reddened eyes just now. She didn't know what had happened to this young man, but all she could do was patiently endure the heat and wait a few more minutes. Otherwise, she probably would have taken her granddaughter and left just now. "Hello, can you change a 10 yuan bill for me?" I walked into the tea shop and very awkwardly went to the front, speaking to the employee working inside. The cashier was a girl who was working non-stop. Hearing me speak, she couldn't help but stare for a moment. "Change 10 yuan for small bills?" 10 yuan is already small change, she said. She was really too busy. There were too many customers. But seeing my eyes, she inexplicably felt sorry for me, as if this man's eyes were filled with sadness. In the end, she forced a smile at me and opened the cash register, taking out 10 1 yuan bills, giving them to me. I stuffed the 10 yuan bill into the girl's hand. Thank you. The people lined up behind me looked at me with strange eyes, not because I was changing money, but because everyone seemed to feel the awkwardness radiating from me. One girl, disgusted, covered her nose. The smell of sweat on my body was too strong, making her feel disgusted. I didn't have the heart to care about those things, and I hurriedly ran out of the tea shop. "Sorry to keep you waiting in this hot weather." I ran back to the shady spot, smiling apologetically and giving the woman 2 yuan. Then, I saw the little girl with empty hands and asked with a smile, "Did you pick a balloon yet?" "Little dolphin," the little girl replied in a childish voice. I used my foot to hold the bag of goods and quickly took off the pink dolphin balloon. When giving it to the little girl, I said, "Let me tie it for you, okay?" The little girl blinked. It seemed like she thought the big brother in front of her was a bit too old. I carefully tied the balloon to the little girl's finger. The first business transaction was completed. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Time was really flying by. Even though I was standing in the shade, I was already drenched in sweat. I didn't even know how many times my shirt had been wet, then dried, then wet again. Luckily, in more than 2 hours, I had sold 8 balloons. It was almost lunchtime. More people were coming in and out of the commercial center. My stomach was growling. I had woken up and followed Sarah to the courthouse, and I still hadn't eaten breakfast. Actually, my stomach had been protesting for a while, but I thought that buying a temporary bread would cost a few yuan, or even more than 10 yuan. Eating a bowl of noodles would also cost more than 10 yuan. I had never been so meticulous with the money before. I thought it was a pity. It didn't matter if I skipped a meal. "I'll wait for dinner," I thought to myself. 8 balloons, 3 of which were sold for 8 yuan and 1 for 7 yuan. Subtracting the capital, I earned 61.4 yuan. If you calculated it like that, earning 200 to 300 yuan a day was still hopeful. After all, there would definitely be more people here in the evening. But Lily's tuition would cost several thousand yuan. It was never enough. Spending 1 yuan myself was like cutting off 1 yuan to give to Sarah. I just endured it then. Around 2 p.m., after the peak hours, there were no more customers. Sarah called me. I looked at the word wife on my phone. I was worried and hesitant. Should I answer it or not? I hesitated until Sarah hung up, but right after that, she called again. I gritted my teeth and still answered the phone, not wanting to avoid it anymore. "Are you free?" Sarah's voice rang out on the phone, still cold. I opened my mouth, my voice dry. No. Even if I begged, I wouldn't get a divorce from Sarah anymore. But Sarah didn't seem to hear my tiny voice. "I have some things at the company. I can't leave. I'll probably have to work overtime." Can you pick up Lily from my mom's house? I was a little dazed. My mom. Your mom has passed away so I could be with you. Em said if you are free, welcome Lily home. I rejoiced. My mom gave me a chance to see Lily. I can't remember where her house is anymore. Not only did I not remember where Sarah's mom's house was, but I also didn't know what Sarah's mom looked like. Sarah was silent for a moment, probably surprised that I really had amnesia, otherwise, I wouldn't act to this extent. Anyway, she didn't mention the divorce this afternoon. Of course, she might also be surprised that I could agree with her so directly this time. Before, I really didn't care about anything. Now that I knew how to change, it was too late. Moreover, with my personality, I was afraid that in a few days, I would return to the old me. Sarah sighed inwardly. I'll send you the address and my mom's phone number, she said and hung up. I quickly received her WeChat message. I immediately released all the air and packed up all the balloons, happily preparing to pick up Lily. Thinking of meeting Lily soon and my mother-in-law, whom I had never met, I was nervous and uneasy, but even more so, excited and interested. Putting on the backpack, preparing to leave, I turned to look at the tea shop. Before, Brian had told me that when I was drunk, I went crazy and even hit Lily. Thinking of this, I still walked into the tea shop. At this time, there were no customers lined up in the shop. I went to the front, looking at the cheapest milk tea on the price list. It was just over 10 yuan. A little more expensive was nearly 20 yuan. Before, I had never cared about these small bills, but now, looking at them, it was truly ridiculous. I felt these numbers were somewhat shocking. Hello, what do you need? The cashier recognized me and blinked in surprise. I smiled and asked, please give me a lychee green tea. Saying that, I took out the money in my pocket, handing over 15 yuan. Wait a moment. I received the lychee green tea. My heart was a little sour, but coming to the road, I couldn't bear to do it again. I hailed a taxi again. It was really the hottest time. It was okay if I was sunburned myself, but thinking that I couldn't let Lily be sunburned either, and moreover, Sarah's house was several kilometers away from Emerald Lake, I turned on the GPS and gave the phone to the driver. In 10 minutes, we arrived. Sarah's house was in the suburbs, a normal 2-story house. Please wait a moment. I'll be right back. Before getting out of the car, I said to the driver, then hurriedly got out of the car and walked to the door of the house. The person who came out was a small, thin old man, dark-skinned, about 60 years old. Seeing me, he didn't say anything. His eyes seemed cold, just looking at me before turning away. Lily, your dad has come to pick you up. I immediately knew that this must be Sarah's father, but I wanted to open my mouth and call out Dad, but I couldn't open my mouth no matter what. A rural woman, who also seemed thin, came out, holding the hand of a 4 or 5-year-old girl with rosy cheeks. I opened my mouth, but in the end, I still couldn't call out Mom. The corners of my eyes were a little sour. My gaze landed on the little girl's face. From Lily's features, I could see Sarah's shadow, and I could also see my own shadow. Lily, I forced a smile at Lily, trying to be gentle, but Lily trembled slightly, her eyes unconsciously hiding behind the woman. My heart sank. I could feel the fear in Lily's eyes. What kind of beastly things had I done before? Sarah's mom didn't say anything, just looking at me with complex eyes full of disappointment, lowering her head and smiling at Lily. Lily, come to Grandma's house again in a few days, okay? Lily pursed her lips, nodding slightly, but she was gently pulled forward by Sarah's mom, obediently walking forward. The smile on my face was awkward even to myself, but I still had to try to maintain it and reach out, wanting to hold Lily's hand, but Lily seemed to be startled again, shrinking back. My heart tightened with pain, looking at the young face, familiar and strange before my eyes, the corners of my eyes turning red again. Even the milk tea in my hand, I didn't dare give to her, afraid of scaring Lily again. I could only force a smile and go ahead. Lily looked back at her grandparents before timidly following me behind. Arriving at the taxi, I opened the car door to let Lily get in the car. I sat next to Lily, telling the driver to drive to Emerald Lake. I wanted to take Lily home, but I couldn't. I still had to earn money for Lily's tuition. The commercial center had air conditioning. It wasn't hot. I could only let Lily wait in the commercial center. The driver started the car. At this time, I handed the milk tea to Lily and smiled. "Want milk tea?" Lily glanced at the milk tea, then lowered her head. I could hardly imagine how scared Lily was of me, to the point of being so unfamiliar. My eyes turned red. I inserted a straw and gave the milk tea in front of Lily. Luckily, even though Lily didn't look up, she took the milk tea with her little hand. I reached out, wanting to stroke Lily's head, but then stopped in midair, saying gently, "Drink it." Lily lowered her head, gently sipping through the straw. A wave of warmth surged in my heart again. I sent Sarah a message, "I've picked up Lily." But there was no reply from Sarah. The taxi fare to Emerald Lake was 22 yuan, which made my heart ache even more. I led Lily to the spot where I had set up the stall before. First, I took Lily inside, pointed to the corner of the room, and said to Lily, "Dad has to go outside to sell balloons. It's very hot out there. Can you sit here and wait for Dad?" In the end, Lily raised her head, but looking at me with a look of incomprehension. It wasn't that she didn't understand the meaning of selling something. It was just that she didn't know when her dad started selling things, even more so not understanding why her dad was talking so gently today. In her impression, Dad had never shown any tenderness to her. When drunk, he often hit her or argued with her mom. Looking into Lily's eyes, I didn't know what to say anymore. At this time, Lily went to the corner on her own, sitting down obediently. I bit my teeth, bowed my head, and said, "Just wait for Dad here, don't go anywhere," then pushed the door and walked out. Tears finally couldn't be held back anymore. I didn't want Lily to see me crying. In my understanding, a father had to be as solid as a mountain. I couldn't give Lily a good life right now, but I definitely didn't want Lily to see my weak side. I forcefully wiped away my tears. "Why are you crying? You're a man." I put the backpack on the ground, looking inside. Lily was also tilting her head to look at me. I smiled, making a funny face at Lily. Then, I took the balloons and the gas in the backpack and started inflating them, hanging up more than a dozen balloons. I waved my hand, calling Lily over here. Lily hesitantly stepped in front of me. I looked up, pointing to the bright balloons. "Do you like them? Which one do you want? Dad will give it to you." Lily looked up at the balloons, not saying anything, but a look of yearning flashed in her eyes. I said again, "These are all yours. Pick whichever one you want." Lily lowered her head again. After a few seconds, she said in an extremely small voice, I want the dinosaur one." I almost didn't hear it clearly. I quickly took the dinosaur balloon off and tied it to Lily's finger. "Okay, there you go. And if you need to use the bathroom, just call Dad, okay?" Lily responded a little. But anyway, she was willing to talk to me. I felt this was a good thing. Business was really bad in the afternoon. It was a slow period. Nearly the entire afternoon passed by. By around 4 p.m., I had only sold 2 balloons. Lily came to find me, saying she needed to use the bathroom. I wore a backpack full of balloons and took Lily into the commercial center to find a restroom. Fortunately, there was no security guard to stop us. Around 5 o'clock, it became more crowded again. Sarah called me again, asking me where I was and where Lily was. I said, "At Emerald Lake." "Lily's here too." "What are you doing taking Lily to Emerald Lake?" I thought for a moment, not daring to say that I was setting up a stall selling balloons here. "Just taking a walk." Sarah didn't think much of it. "I have to work overtime today. It might be very late. Can you please take Lily to eat something? I'll transfer money to you. If you're free, can you watch Lily sleep tonight?" I hurriedly agreed, saying, "I have money. Don't worry, I won't let Lily go hungry." I couldn't help but smile lightly. Sarah definitely wouldn't come looking for me to get a divorce today. The notary office had probably closed anyway. And again, Sarah had asked me to watch Lily sleep, asking me to take care of Lily. This could be considered a good sign. Sarah was silent for a few seconds, not saying anything more, then hung up. I put away my phone, looking at Lily. Lily was still sitting in that corner, but unlike the other children, who were holding the strings of their balloons, Lily was hugging the blue dinosaur balloon, sitting there, like a rock. In the crowd passing through the commercial center, I don't know how many curious eyes had glanced over. Perhaps they were all wondering why such a beautiful and cute little girl was sitting rock in the corner of the doorway. I waved to Lily. Lily pursed her lips, obediently walking to my front. "Hungry?" I asked gently. Lily nodded slightly, her voice as quiet as a mosquito. I smiled. "Then tonight, let's eat bread, okay?" To the left of the commercial center entrance was a tea shop, and next to it was a bakery. I had seen it before. Lily chose a bread stuffed with pork floss. I also bought her a glass of milk. These two items cost 20 yuan. I only dared to buy myself a loaf of plain sandwich bread. One loaf had 8 slices, which was filling and satisfying. In the afternoon, I sold 4 more balloons. After leaving the bakery, I took Lily's hand and returned to the front of the commercial center, taking out the money to count. There were 42 yuan left. I didn't even dare to buy a bottle of mineral water. Before, when I was thirsty, I would quickly drink a few mouthfuls of water from the faucet while taking Lily to the bathroom. "Lily, let's go inside." "Put your backpack on the ground," I said again to Lily, but Lily shook her head and sat down next to me. This was a very small gesture, but it suddenly made me want to cry. I wiped my eyes and rubbed Lily's head. "Well, you just eat here. If you get hot later, go inside." Saying this, I also sat down next to Lily and ate the bread with relish. This bread wasn't hard to eat, it was just easy to get thirsty. I was constipated and had to keep an eye on Lily. I really had no choice but to go buy a bottle of mineral water. The shabbily dressed young man and the cute, beautiful little girl, this combination made passers-by couldn't help but look at the two of them a few more times. I didn't know if it was because Lily was too beautiful and cute, but after that, until about 7 p.m. during the dinner rush, I sold 5 more balloons, and no one bargained. Counting it up, the balloons I sold had recovered the cost of the wholesale purchase. No wonder people came out here to sell things. The income wasn't much less than working in a factory, I thought to myself. Around 8 o'clock, Brian called me. "Still selling balloons?" "Still selling," I replied. Brian continued to ask, "How's it going?" "Almost breaking even?" "Almost recovering the cost," I said. "Pretty much the same as my wages as Uber Eats." "I am going to sell 2 balloons with you if you don't mind." Brian laughed. I know he was joking. "If you want to sell, you can sell the other thing. For example, sell toy for children or anything else. If we sell same things, people will think we are selling drugs or something else." Brian laughed. "You can go to the back of Emerald Lake now. There's a night market there, which will be much more crowded than the front. It's just that there seem to be 2 people selling balloons there." Hearing this, I was stunned for a moment. "Well, I'll go take a look later." Hanging up Brian's phone, I put on the backpack and took Lily's hand, walking towards the back of the commercial center. There was indeed a night market behind, but the scale wasn't large. It wasn't crowded yet. In the night market, of course, there were mainly food stalls, but the surrounding area was mainly a children's play area with dove feeding, ring tossing, plaster dolls, fish feeding, and all kinds of toys. I even saw a colleague, a middle-aged man selling balloons. His balloons were more high-end than mine. They were the kind with twinkling LED lights. I didn't dare to get close, so I squatted down next to the fenced-off dove feeding area. Time passed slowly. My heart occasionally welled up with complexity. Seeing middle-aged couples walking hand in hand, I thought of the disappointment and attitude that Sarah had towards me. Seeing the groups of young people gathering, talking and laughing, I thought of my current relationship with Lu Hai and Lu Bang. Occasionally glimpsing people's car keys, half or completely revealed on their waists, I also felt envious. I didn't know when I would be able to afford a car, but if I had money now, I would definitely have to buy a house first. Of course, at present, the most important goal was to make Sarah change her mind, otherwise, everything was just talk. Business wasn't as good at night as I had imagined. It was possible that the other balloon salesman stole my customers with flashier style. I only sold 4 balloons between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Sarah called me again. Is Lily asleep? I tilted my head to look at Lily, who was still sitting obediently beside me. At this moment, she was looking towards the night market. Suddenly, I felt uneasy. We're still at Emerald Lake. Why did you bring her to Emerald Lake? She should be asleep now. Sarah seemed a bit angry. I quickly said, well, I'll take her back right away. Sarah said, okay, and hung up. I had no choice but to pack up. I had just started to release the air from the hanging balloons when a voice rang out nearby. You're still here? I tilted my head to look. It was the cute girl wearing a dress. I was stunned for a moment before remembering that she was the cashier at the tea shop during the day. I quickly smiled. Oh, you're off work? Just finished, Daphne smiled, revealing 2 dimples, making her look even more adorable. Is this your daughter? Lily timidly grabbed my shirt. I smiled and nodded, saying to Lily, Lily, call her auntie. Daphne laughed, I'm probably the same age as you. Why did you tell your daughter to call me auntie? Call me miss. I corrected myself, miss, Lily say hi. Lily obediently called out, but her voice was still very small. Your daughter is really well behaved and beautiful. Daphne smiled and said to me, thank you. I also smiled. A sense of pride and satisfaction spread in my heart. Well, goodbye. Daphne waved to Lily and then left. I continued to pack up the balloons. After packing all the balloons into the bag, I took Lily's hand and walked home. Emerald Lake wasn't far from the old apartment complex where I lived. It was about a 15-minute walk. Now, the weather wasn't hot at night anymore, but I still wanted to save that bit of money. Before we walked far, I turned to ask Lily, Lily, can you still walk? Lily looked up at me and shook her head. Well, let Dad carry you on his back. Saying this, I switched the backpack to the front, smiled, and squatted down in front of Lily. Come on. Lily hesitated for a moment. Just as I thought I was being a bit hasty in repairing my relationship with Lily, 2 small, fair hands wrapped around my neck, and then Lily lay on my back. My steps were quite light, gently swaying. Sway, sway, to Grandma's house. Perhaps because I was singing badly, Lily was making me feel guilty. Suddenly, she laughed. I was stunned, happy and sad at the same time. Lily, Dad's sorry. Can you forgive Dad? After a few seconds of silence, Lily said softly, then will Dad not hit Mom anymore? My heart tightened. No, Dad promises he won't hit Lily anymore, and he won't hit Mom anymore. Dad, Lily called softly, the hands hugging my neck suddenly tightening. The corners of my lips curled up, the corners of my eyes stinging. I didn't expect Lily to be able to play with me right away, but I had already seen hope. After arriving home, I suddenly remembered that I didn't have the key. I had no choice but to call Sarah. Sarah told me that she had left the key in the crevice under the step of the door. Not wanting to wake Lily, who was soundly asleep, I carefully sat down, took the key, opened the door, and entered the house, placing Lily on the bed in the room. Outside of Lily, who was sleeping very soundly, her small face rosy, seemingly still carrying a smile, I didn't know if she was dreaming. I couldn't help but sit by the bed, looking at Lily for a long time, as if I could never see enough. Then, I gently stroked Lily's cheek before returning to the master bedroom, taking a set of clothes to change into in the bathroom, taking a cold shower. At first, I had intended to wake Lily up to wash her face, brush her teeth, and take a bath, but seeing Lily sleeping soundly, I couldn't bear to wake her up. I took out my phone and texted Sarah, saying that Lily was asleep, asking Sarah when she would be off work and come home. Sarah quickly replied, saying that it would probably be another 2 hours, telling me to sleep with Lily first. I wanted to tell Sarah not to overwork, but after typing the last word, I still didn't dare to send it. I couldn't even take care of this family now. What was the point of telling Sarah that? I thought to myself, okay, I gotta wake up 6 to do my exercise before heading to Emerald Lake before selling balloons. I am gonna set alarm right before I get tired and accidentally slept on Lily's small chair by the bed. I fell asleep like this without realizing what I thought. Sarah felt too tired, and for a long time, the director of the company told her to be back with new report. It's just that I had lost it when I gamble. Now there I saw it. She didn't want the job, so she made a decision. She didn't do what she wants and came back to see Lily and her again. What will be happen to them? As a mom, she have some hope for her to change and be more close to her little daughter, Lily. The warmth night to them both. What would happen? Just so she could take care of the two of them. I am gonna let everything goes in a cycle for them. From time to time the wind will blow and get it. It seems there is no air condition around here, just the wind and cold, so it will change it. Suddenly waking up from their dreams. I looked over to them too, Lily and Kali. As I touch over them, I am thinking about that I will be getting back over here again. I don't want to overreact, but she seems so nice. Then suddenly heard over here. She asked, you see me at what? Am I gonna show right there? With me, out what will be? Do it. She said out that over here. She did not wanted to see each other. She didn't show all the time because you didn't care about this matter as a family all the time. She came over here. I told her it won't be any kind of a thing. She said I don't want to have fun all the time. The house over again at be me and you, is that all gonna stay there and have a moment? Even putting on a pretense in front of her was not complete this month. Indifference and deception were the story of my relationship with her these last 2 years. Can you watch Lily again today? I have to go to work overtime. Today was Saturday. Even if she wanted to divorce me, she couldn't go through the process. I hurriedly agreed, of course wanting the chance to be with Lily. Sarah saw the bright smile on my face and was a bit stunned, as if seeing the old me, full of vigor. Then, she turned to continue washing her face. Standing behind her, I asked, can I ask what kind of work you do that your company always has overtime? Sarah didn't turn around. That's none of your business. I felt disappointed and scratched my head, having no choice but to leave. I went to the room. Sarah watched Lily sleeping soundly, feeling very content. Sarah finished washing her face and came in, seeing me propping my chin on my hands, squatting beside the bed. Her eyelids drooped slightly. Can you please go outside? I need to change. In fact, the two had been married for many years. Before, when our relationship was good, she didn't need to avoid me while changing. But since our relationship had become strained, I naturally was no longer treated like that. A pang ran through me, I nodded gently, and went out of the room. At the door, I turned back. Are you not using the bathroom anymore? Sarah was stunned for a moment, then nodded. I went to my room, took a set of clean clothes, and went to the bathroom for a cold shower. I showered fairly quickly. I hand-washed both sets of clothes that I had taken off. It wasn't that there wasn't a washing machine. It was just that my clothes smelled of sweat, and I was afraid Sarah wouldn't be happy. I hung the clothes outside to dry. At this time, Sarah came out of the room. She lightly put on makeup, put on white cloth shoes, and had long, straight, and fair legs. Marrying Sarah was truly a blessing from my previous life. It was a pity that I didn't know how to cherish it. I smiled at Sarah. You have to go to work now. Sarah was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Lily and you can order takeout for lunch and dinner. I'll transfer the money to you. No need, I still have money. Sarah didn't say anything more and left. Lily woke up around 10 o'clock. When she woke up, I was by her side. Dad," Lily looked at me and called out. I nodded repeatedly and smiled. "My sleepy little worm has woken up." Lily tilted her head. "Where's Mom?" "Mom has to work overtime and went to the company today." Lily's eyes were a little sad. It seemed like she wasn't very happy. Except for time at school, she of course still wanted to be by Sarah's side. Even if her grandparents were good to her, it wasn't the same as being with her mom. Children didn't know how to express it, but they weren't insensitive. In Lily's heart, I was definitely not as good as Sarah. My heart twinged. I rubbed Lily's head and said softly, "Dad will take you to eat breakfast and then go sell balloons, okay?" Lily just obediently nodded. She was so understanding that it made people feel sorry for her. I thought Lily would need my help with personal hygiene, but she was quite proficient at it. She got toothpaste, brushed her teeth, washed her face, and even put on perfume herself. It was just that she didn't know how to tie her hair. She stood in front of the dressing table, turning her head and asking, "Dad, can you tie my hair for me?" This really put me in a difficult position. How would I know how to tie hair? And it took more than 10 minutes before I put on the backpack and took Lily outside. Lily's hair, though tied, was still very messy. Taking Lily outside the apartment complex, not far away, there was a dim sum shop. I asked Lily, "Let's eat dim sum, okay?" Lily nodded. She was much more obedient than other children of the same age. I led Lily to the dim sum shop, buying 2 dim sum buns with pickles and a glass of green bean dessert for myself. After asking Lily, I bought 2 more shumai and a glass of soy milk. Prices weren't cheap nowadays. These items already cost me 9.5 yuan. I felt a little heartache. On the way to Emerald Lake, I texted Brian, asking if he was awake. If he had time, he could come to Emerald Lake to find me to return the money I borrowed yesterday. Arriving at Emerald Lake, I sat down in the same spot with Lily, starting to take out the balloons to inflate. In fact, at this time, it was still very empty around Emerald Lake. There wasn't a trace of children. Most were elderly people taking a walk or office workers hurrying by. Of course, many people worked or had stores at Emerald Lake, driving here, which made me envious. Yesterday, Brian had even told me that after I graduated, my family had bought me a Porsche Panamera for commuting, but then my family had problems, and everything had to be sold. I didn't know if I would have the chance to drive a Panamera again in this life. So early? A soft voice suddenly cut off my train of thought. I looked up, seeing the girl at the tea shop. "Oh, hello, Daphne." I smiled. Daphne smiled, seeming a bit puzzled. "Who would buy balloons this early?" "I don't know what to do at home, so I came out here. In fact, I still wanted to find a full-time job. Yesterday, I even used my phone to look, but I couldn't find a suitable job. Most of the jobs online didn't earn as much as selling balloons, and now I had to take care of Lily. The job search had to be postponed. I had to wait until Lily went to school. "You're really trying," Daphne said, giving a thumbs up. I shrugged and smiled, "There's no other way. Life is forcing me." "Okay, good luck." Saying this, Daphne went into the tea shop. Lily didn't seem to like Daphne very much, but I didn't think much of it, just assuming that Lily was introverted. Daphne entered the tea shop. A few minutes later, she came out wearing her uniform, holding several white rabbit candies, giving them to Lily. "Lily, want a candy?" Lily's eyes were a little eager, but she shook her head. Daphne was a little surprised, smiling, and saying, "Why not eat it? Don't you like milk candies?" Lily didn't say anything, making the well-intentioned Daphne feel a bit awkward. I had to take the white rabbit candies from Daphne's hand, saying to Lily, "Lily, thank you to the miss." Only at this time did Lily speak up. Daphne rubbed Lily's head. "So well behaved," and then returned to the store. This action couldn't be said to be a great favor, but it made my heart warm. From 8 to 10 o'clock, I didn't have a single order. The sunlight gradually became intense. I took Lily to the commercial center again, really afraid that Lily would be bored. I took Lily into the commercial center. At the toy store, I bought Lily a set of building blocks for nearly 20 yuan. Brian found me at 10:30. How's business? I shook my head. There are too few children this morning. I've only sold 2. Brian was stunned. Then give me the money back. I smiled and said, yesterday, I touched my pockets and found more than 300 yuan. Brian frowned, not saying anything more. I took out the money from my pocket, counting 215 yuan, giving it to Brian. Brian was a little amused. You're calculating so carefully. 15 yuan is also money. It can buy 2 breakfasts. Brian was suddenly lost in thought, sighing. You're better like this now, but I still suspect if you're really you or not. I rolled my eyes. I just lost my memory. What, is it possessed by a ghost? If I'm not me, who else would I be? Brian took the money and sat down next to me, then asked about the situation between me and Sarah. I said, it seems like it's a bit better. Immediately, I called Lily over, telling her to call out Uncle. Lily, of course, remembered Brian and obediently called out, Uncle. She let you take Lily out, so there's probably a chance. Keep trying, Brian winked at me, not directly talking about the divorce in front of Lily. I nodded vigorously. Brian sat beside me, smoking 2 cigarettes, then also had to go deliver food. I continued to sell balloons. The 2 hours at noon were a small peak period, helping me sell 5 more balloons. The revenue was similar to yesterday. Moreover, today, it was rare that all were young couples buying balloons. No one bargained. I had nearly 300 yuan in my pocket. I had noticed that Lily, when playing with building blocks in the commercial center, often looked towards KFC, opposite the tea shop. In fact, the reason I was selling balloons here was because the traffic from KFC brought most of the customers. This thing had a lot of appeal to children. I waved, calling Lily over, saying to Lily, Lily, let's eat KFC for lunch, okay? Lily was so young, she couldn't know the family's economic situation, just nodding. She hadn't eaten KFC much. I took Lily's hand and walked into KFC, ordering Lily a kids combo with 4 items, plus a glass of bubble milk, costing 53 yuan. I felt so distressed I almost convulsed. I didn't dare to eat KFC myself, and went to Man Bakery to buy a bag of plain bread and a bottle of mineral water. Now, the amount of money I was short for Lily's tuition was still very far away, and Lily had to go to school tomorrow. Occasionally looking back, seeing Lily hidden in the commercial center, eating happily, her hands and mouth covered in grease, I couldn't help but smile again, continuing to try hard, doubling my efforts. After 2 p.m., it was almost the slow period again. I intended to wait past this time. In the evening, I would go to the pedestrian street to try. After all, there really weren't many customers in this Emerald Lake area. It wasn't necessary for me to wait here. Around 4 p.m., I was still drenched in sweat, sitting outside the commercial center. A voice full of surprise suddenly rang out over my head. My heart skipped a beat. I had finally met an acquaintance. I could only look up, my heart even more panicked. Selling balloons wasn't something to be proud of. But in my heart, there was even more bitterness and remorse. Darn. Gwen, you came here. The 2 people who had come were my closest relatives, Uncle Zijin and Aunt Niegwen. Zijin had brought Niegwen back to my hometown when I was young. At that time, I knew that Niegwen name and I called Gwen from back that time, I didn't say aunt. So everyone in that village will not say her aunt, or anything. Hearing my greeting, Zijin and Niegwen both looked surprised. These 2 years, I had been like mud that couldn't be plastered on the wall. Especially these last 6 months, I was beyond saving, making them no longer have any hope for me. And I resented them for not lending me money, harboring a deep resentment. Even on the family WeChat group, I would leave. During festivals and family gatherings, I never participated. Occasionally meeting in this small town, I didn't say hello, just like strangers. What are you doing here? After all, I was his biological nephew, who he had watched grow up. Seeing me sweating profusely, my face flushed red from the heat, Zijin frowned and asked. Even though the truth was right in front of him, he still didn't believe that I had come out here to sell balloons. Selling balloons, I scratched my head. Zijin and Yegwen looked at each other, even more surprised. You started selling this when? If you want to make money, why don't you go find a decent job? I looked complicated. It's only been 2 days. I have to take care of Lily. I can't go find a job for the time being. While saying this, I glanced at Lily. Seeing Lily, Zijin's expression softened a lot. It was said that the generations were different, so there was more affection. Although he was only my uncle, he really liked Lily. It was just that he was a civil servant, also a small leader with some authority, and he liked to tease Lily, so Lily was always a bit afraid of him, not daring to be close. Of course, I didn't know this. Zijin waved to Lily. Lily, of course, recognized her uncle and grandma, obediently walking out. It was just not daring to get close. Zijin went over, rubbing Lily's head, smiling and saying, "Not calling uncle?" Lily didn't say anything, seeming a bit afraid, and went behind me, her small hand grabbing my shirt. I didn't know what was happening. Lily, call out to them. Grandma, Lily stuck her head out, only calling out to Nyegwen. Nyegwen smiled and nodded. Zijin was a bit helpless, then looked at me again. Lily is about to go to school, right? I nodded. She's going to school tomorrow. Zijin asked again, have you eaten yet? He and Nyegwen were here because someone had invited them to eat. It wasn't convenient to bring me with them, but seeing his nephew selling balloons here, his heart really wasn't at ease. Even if I was very hopeless before, he had happened to meet me, I couldn't pretend to be pitiful in front of him. I nodded. I ate KFC with Lily earlier. I'm not hungry now. If only you had known to try harder sooner, Zijin said. Then, he asked, how's it going with Kali now? He didn't know that Sarah and I had reached the point of divorcing, but he knew that Sarah and I had a bad relationship. I didn't know what to say, hesitating for a moment, saying, it's okay. I didn't want to talk about Sarah wanting a divorce, afraid that Zijin would go find Sarah. At that time, it might instead make Sarah annoyed. Zijin's expression softened a little. Is Lily's tuition prepared? My expression turned awkward. I just started selling balloons. I haven't earned much money yet, but Sarah has probably prepared the tuition for Lily, right? She didn't say anything to me. Zijin glanced at Nyegwen, seeing that his wife didn't have any reaction. Well, uncle will give you 5,000 yuan. Don't rely on Sarah for everything. You've already been a jerk enough. You have to shoulder the family responsibilities later. My eyes suddenly turned red. Zijin had been very good to me since I was young, but I didn't expect that in this situation, Zijin would still take the initiative to give me money. After all, I had deleted Zijin's WeChat and everyone else's. One could see how tense the relationship was before. Looking at Aunt Nyegwen, I only saw a slightly complex expression. She didn't say anything. Nyegwen was originally a very generous woman. I've already taken quite a bit of money from you and Aunt before, haven't I? I said. Zijin, seeing me about to cry, was a bit stunned. You have amnesia? You can only remember things before college? Amnesia? What happened? Zijin also looked surprised. I don't know either. I was afraid that Zijin and Nyegwen would misunderstand, so I quickly added, Uncle, Aunt, how much money did I borrow from you before? Tell me the amount. I will definitely pay it back in the future, including the money from Great Aunt and Little Aunt. Nyegwen and Zijin glanced at each other. Zijin frowned, asking, how did this happen? Have you gone to see a doctor? I just woke up like this. I'm probably fine. If it still hasn't gotten better after a while, I'll go see a doctor later. Go see a doctor. How much money do you need? Just ask your uncle. Zijin frowned even more tightly. I shook my head. It's really nothing. Zijin was a bit surprised, but didn't persuade anymore. Add me on WeChat. I'll transfer the money to you. No need. Sarah probably has money. Kali, and you have reached this point already? It might be for the better if you can take care of the tuition, but it definitely won't be worse if you can't take care of the tuition, because it can't get worse anymore. I really didn't want to take money from Zijin and them anymore. She has money, but I can't let her shoulder the family expenses forever. It wasn't easy for her to earn money either. Hearing this, I was silent. Zijin said again, quickly take out your phone. Consider it a loan from me. Pay me back after you earn the money. I bowed my head, saying, well, how much did I borrow from you before? Don't ask about this. I won't tell you to pay it back. Second aunt and third aunt have never asked you to pay them back either. But I had to know the amount. In fact, my personality was sometimes quite stubborn. Zijin and Yeguin couldn't help but look at each other in surprise. I don't remember. Let me go back and think about it, then tell you later. Only then did I take out my phone, adding Zijin back on WeChat. Zijin immediately transferred money to me, even saying that if it wasn't enough, I could find him. I could only nod, feeling apologetic. Zijin then played with Lily, who was being hesitant, before going inside with Yeguin. I felt a bit complicated in my heart, but I didn't change spots, continuing to set up the stall in the same place. Not long after, my WeChat suddenly displayed a notification that Zijin had added me back to the family group. There were more than 10 people in the group. Looking at these profile pictures, my heart became even more complicated. No one said anything in the group. I didn't say anything, just sent friend requests to my aunt and everyone. Aunt accepted first, then uncle, my cousin Jude, and others accepted in turn. I sent messages to Aunt and Jude apologizing for what had happened before and asking how much money they had lent our family. Aunt said over 40,000, and cousin Jude said over 20,000 immediately. They asked about my current situation, why I was out selling balloons. Cam must have called them. I said there was nothing special, just wanting to go out and earn money. I also casually mentioned the amnesia. Then I was a little busy and didn't have time to reply. My cousins all asked about my situation. Grandpa was even more direct, starting a video call. Looking at Grandpa's old face, my heart sank. I didn't know what to say. Grandpa gave a complex but kind smile. I heard from your uncle that you're selling balloons on the street. How's it going? It's okay, I replied. Grandpa said again, if you want to live well, go find a job. Your uncle told me. I'll ask if there are any good jobs. Call your uncle more often. Hearing Grandpa's familiar voice, I couldn't help but choke up. Grandma had passed away when I was very young, so Grandpa had raised me for a long time, and I had always been very close to him. Seeing my reddened eyes, Grandpa's eyes also suddenly turned wet. When you're free, come back to Ning City to visit Grandpa. It's been a long time since I've seen you. I paused. Among my relatives, only my great-aunt, Zibuyashin, lived in Ning City, which was also to the south, but more than an hour away from Jiang County by car. It seemed like Grandpa also knew about my amnesia. Now, I was living in a nursing home there. I felt a bit bitter. Knowing this probably had something to do with my parents going to jail, I nodded, saying, I'll visit you when I have time, then asked, Grandpa, did I ever take your money before? I thought that no matter what, I wouldn't take money from the hands of an old man nearly 80 years old. Haha, just took a little bit. Consider it money Grandpa gave Lily to buy food, Grandpa said with a smile. At this age, money is just a material possession. Nothing makes me happier than seeing my grandson regain his spirit. I cursed inwardly, only wishing that I had really only taken a little pocket money from Grandpa, so I didn't ask for the specific amount. Grandpa was different from Uncle and Aunt anyway. After that, Grandpa advised me for a long time, telling me to go to the hospital to check what was wrong with the amnesia, also telling me not to be as dissolute as before. I had to seriously work hard and treat Sarah well, ultimately also telling me to take Sarah to Ning City to visit him, making me a bit embarrassed. I guessed that I couldn't get Sarah to go, but I still agreed. No matter how bad my relationship with Sarah was, I didn't want to tell Grandpa, avoiding him from worrying. Zijin and Nyegwin came out again. Nyegwin was holding Lily, who was playing with magnets in the commercial center. Zijin asked, "Do you want to come to Uncle's house to play? It's been a long time since Lily has been to your uncle's. I still want to stay here and sell balloons." "I'll go next time," I replied. Zijin didn't force me. "Uncle has moved houses now. It's not far from here. When you're free, take Lily to play, okay? Also, accept the money I transferred. Wait until Uncle finds a job for you." Then he added, "You have to work hard. Don't be like before, 3 days of sunshine, 2 days of rain." I was stunned. Only at this time did I understand that before, besides lending money, Zijin had helped me in many other ways. It was true, with the love that he had for me, if it wasn't for helping too many times and I was still like sludge, then how could he not be disappointed in me? I nodded. Suddenly thinking, in fact, life wasn't too difficult. If I had a decent job, I would slowly pay off the debt, eventually paying it all off. But it was all thanks to Zijin's help. Moreover, the main issue in front of me was still how to keep Sarah, so she wouldn't insist on divorcing. Zijin and Nyegwin again invited Lily to go to their house to play, saying that there were many delicious things at their house, but Lily shook her head. Zijin and Nyegwin had no choice but to leave Lily here with me, telling me not to let her be sunburned. Then, they took Lily into the commercial center, buying her a lot of snacks and clothes. I didn't know what to say. After Zijin and Nyegwin left, tears kept falling. I bowed my head very low, not letting Lily see. Not long after, in the evening, Lily ate the snacks. "Lily, they're cam bought for Lily, have you some? It's really so good. I don't bear to and I keep working. It can spend this so big now." And bought all the new things she came for those days for doing. And it's not there's so many things with it. But in what? What is for it? Then that is how it does there. There are and more. They are that good at doing that I had been trying to work with all of them and get it. Then that is what did it for me. I came over here again. In this way again and now. Then it gets over here again. After that the rain start to fall over it. What that meant now. It will get more better like that I would that had. I'm not gonna stay the whole thing is going